Welcome, everybody. Andy and I are going to a pre-release tomorrow together. I know it's crazy. He's driving down, and we're going to go to a Star Wars Unlimited pre-release. So ahead of that, we thought we'd do a video on what are the things to think about before you go to a pre-release. We're going to a Star Wars Unlimited pre-release for the new set, Shadows of the Empire.
Shadows over the Galaxy.
Shadows of the Galaxy. You got to get the name right. But this is our list of 5, it might be 6 things. I'm not very good with counting.
7, who knows? We'll just
we're going to add on. But here are things to think about before you go to a pre-release, whether you're a veteran of it or this is your very first pre-release. I'm going to steal the first one off of our list. The very first thing to think about before going to pre-release is take a damn shower. It can get stinky in there, and just to prepare for the fact that you might have 32 nerds in a confined space, that personal hygiene is of the foremost importance.
But yeah, we've all been into especially since it's going to be the beginning of July here, and it's going to be hot out and gross, and anyway, just want to make sure that you are not the person that everybody else is like, damn it,
ready to play
horrible in here.
Yeah.
Okay. Got that one out of the way.
On a more serious note, I think one of the top things on our list is get your stuff ready. Get into a right kind of mindset. So stuff can be sleeves, stuff can be play mats, stuff can be tokens and counters. But go into the game store and so that you're not a mooch. You're not like, oh, did you bring some extra sleeves? I actually don't have any.
Yeah, I would recommend just buying new sleeves. You don't have to buy super high-end, $15 dual mat dragon shield. You can get the $5 50 pack of Ultra Pros.
Yeah.
Call it a day. It's a pre-release. But I would try to use new sleeves over, recycled old sleeves, just on principle. You don't want somebody to call you out on a marked card or a sleeve splits for some reason, and I only have 40 of this one color, 39 of the one color. Now you have to try to buy sleeves and re-sleeve in the middle of a game, and just start with new sleeves.
Yeah.
Pen and paper, you have to keep track of. In this case, we're keeping track of damage on your base. But if this is for Magic or Lorcana or whatever, keep track of your ink lore, whatever the hell it's called in Lorcana, life totals, etc. Just write it down on pen and paper so that if there is a dispute about it, you're not trying to use a spin down dice and the table gets banged and the dice rolls and were you at 15 or were you at 12, right? It's just undisputed with pen and paper when you write it down. Dice, tokens, deck box. I know your pre-release kit for this is going to have a deck box that comes with it. It's going to be kind of a flimsy paper one. You might want something a little bit more secure, better. And yeah, play mats. For a long time, I just never used play mats, but there was a stigma with using play mats in Magic, that people that used play mats were terrible. And
I don't know what that says about me. That thing makes me extra terrible.
But I've played in enough card game stores where as the card game stores, they're going to do a great job trying to keep the place clean, of course. But by round 3, somebody broke out a bag of Doritos, and now the table's covered in Dorito cheese dust. And just use a play mat, keep your area clean. It also kind of sections off where your boundary of spaces, because sometimes space is limited in these types of venues.
I totally agree. And on the note of food, we were just debating before this video what is a long day. I was like, yeah, playing cards for 4 hours is a long day. And you're like, that's not a long day. But
you never played in a Grand Prix, apparently.
No, I'm actually a noob. But I think just food, snacks, drinks, this might be kind of a day that doesn't have a lot of breaks, like a lunch break, because the game store also does not want to have a lunch break where they're still paying an employee to watch over,
watch everybody else eat. Yeah. And, again, with things, it is a long day. You need to keep up your endurance. So as tempting as it might be to get a soda or an energy drink or something, you're going to end up with a sugar crash. And then you're just going to like slog through, and then you're just going to be eating candy to maintain your blood sugar. So my go-to is like cashews, stuff like that. Yeah. So just kind of have that tucked away in your backpack, I guess. That can
Yeah,
go
something easy.
ready.
I get hangry, and that just makes me very foul to deal with. So I know myself. I'm like, pack some Cliff Bars, some trail mix, but just prepare. You know yourself. Don't come in there with just a backpack scrambling, because it's going to put you in a bad headspace. And then when you lose, you're going to be like, why did I lose? I'm like, well, maybe because you're
You're going
grumpy.
to tilt out of the tournament. So.
I think all of these, it's like put yourself in a position to be an active participant, right? Don't be, oh, I need to find a piece of paper. Can I borrow a pen? Hold on, I gotta go buy some sleeves. Like every little tiny thing is gonna reduce your play experience, because you need another variable to deal with. Reducing the number of variables, reducing the number of things that you need to think about or can occupy your mind. You're gonna have a better Saturday. you're spending money and time to be there. So have a good experience and take the hour before to prepare. Which brings us to our next one is take the time to sort of familiarize yourself with the thing you're about to open up. Like whatever the set is, take 20 minutes and see what the top 5 cards are. There's plenty of those videos floating around, and what are some of the builds or ideas floating around, because that's really valuable in helping you figure out what to do.
Yeah, generally I like to, in these pre-release kits, you're guaranteed a couple of different leaders. I think in this one, it's the Mandalorian and Moff Gideon. So you can probably expect that there will be a number of people running the Mandalorian and Moff Gideon. So what do those cards do? Well, the Mandalorian does something with upgrades. Well, look at the spoiler list. If you go to the Star Wars Unlimited's website, and at the top there's a card database. You can filter over to Shadows of the Galaxy and read through all the different cards that are in the set, so that you're not really surprised when somebody plays something. It also helps can help guide you in your deck building. If I know that blue has a bunch of good common removal spells, I might be looking out for those cards as I'm opening my packs and sorting it out into different colors. And then I can be like, oh, wow, I have a bunch of blue removal spells. I might go blue rather than yellow and green that Moff Gideon and Mandalorian are. Kind of also depends on what your leaders you open up are. So familiarize yourself with a bunch of different leaders and what they're good with. I'd also just kind of take a look at mostly the commons. I mean, you're going to run into uncommons, but you're only getting 6 packs. So you're not really going to run into a ton of rares or legendaries. I mean, yeah, you're probably, if you aggregated all of the pre-release kits together, there's going to be a bunch of good rares and legendaries in the room. But on the most part, you just have your 6. So you're really trying to look more at the commons and uncommons and what they do, and just kind of familiarize yourself with the new mechanics. Like, what does smuggle do? What does bounty do? What do these terms mean? And it could even be go back and look at the actual tournament rules. What can you do? What are the rules of the game? Just kind of refamiliarize yourself with that, because there are a lot of great games out there, and you might have been playing a lot of Magic recently, right, or Lorcana recently, or something, and while they might be similar, they're different rules, and you don't want to be trying to have your mind be like, well, in Lorcana I do X, and so that's what it does in Star Wars Unlimited. So just kind of look through the set, basically.
And I think that's a good segue into my next point is think about the format, right? So the format of most of these pre-releases is limited, meaning you have 6 packs, build a deck. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 8, whatever it is, but it's essentially limited. And there's certain mechanics in those formats that are going to be more powerful. For example, removal tends to be very good in limited, because people don't have to make counters. It's harder to get cards out. So things like removal, big expensive units you're never going to be able to get out. Like anything that's a cost of, you pull a Crate Dragon, the legendary Crate Dragon, that's super cool, but you're never going to get out a 10 resource bomb. So I think that thinking about that as you're going through the deck building stage, as well as what can you actually play versus what's cool, right? Like it's cool. It's cool you pull the Great Dragon, but it doesn't matter if you can't ever play it and you're never going to see it. So
I mean, you could just be there and not care to win, and in the 12 games that you're going to play, one game you get the Great Dragon out and it runs rampant over your opponent. But that's a great story. Maybe that's what you're there for, right? But most people are there like it's casual, but there is some competitive element to it. So you do want to also have a good time playing. With that, like what Matt was saying, looking at removal is great, but things like what has Sentinel and can just like block a lane all day, what has Saboteur that can get around Sentinel or shields or that kind of stuff. So just trying to think about the cards that are in the format and what is going to actually like get played realistically.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to my last point here is take your time to familiarize yourself with sort of the store, the environment, the vibe. If you're going to come in there with the most serious attitude in the world and everyone else is just kind of having fun, it's going to be a little less enjoyable for everybody. If you're like the really studious, like understand that this is a casual, semi-competitive format. There's going to be a lot of noobs. There's going to be a lot of people that might be the first time ever playing. There might be a 12-year-old playing, right? And just understand that you're in a kind of diverse environment with people from all ages, and to be nice and to also have fun, I think, it's a key part of all of this.
Yeah, and I think when you're playing, there's no shame in calling for a judge, right? Yeah. If you're not really sure about the rule or how something's supposed to work, or if you have a question, it's okay to just kind of pause the game, raise your hand, call judge. Somebody will come over, and then you can just be like, hey, I'm not sure, like if I play this card, like does it do X thing? Like I don't want his unit to live or whatever it is, right? They're not going to like give you advice on how to play, but if you just want a rules clarification, or if your opponent did something and you're like, yeah, that's not really in the rules, right? Don't really hold fast to that, like especially if it's clear that they wouldn't normally do that in a game. Just be like, hey man, like that's not how that works. And if they need to take it back, maybe let them, different circumstances, but it basically just boils down to like, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
You said it a lot more eloquently than I did, but that's really the truth of it. And everybody's there to kind of have fun. Like I said, there is a competitive element to it. It is a tournament, but there are going to be people that have never played or only come out for a pre-release because they want to see the new cards on a week before it gets released, and they normally just play with their group of friends at their house or whatever it is. So you get all walks of life, and you don't want to cause somebody else to have a really bad time because you're trying to like gain a 0.5% edge on them in this. Like that's not what you're here for.
Yeah, and I think the final one here, the final point as well, is bring some extra stuff. Because turns out like other people, you found your community, right? These are all people that are interested in this game. Bring your trade binder, bring an extra deck that you have built, because on the margins of all this, you can probably get some trading in. You can probably get some, other games in. I played Twin Suns afterwards. I maybe bring Twin Sun deck, but like bring stuff to play with afterwards, because I guarantee once it's over, people are like, hey, you want to play a match against my Leia aggro deck? Like, oh, sure, that sounds fun. So just kind of come prepared to trade if you want to, or play some extra matches, or have some casual stuff at the end.
Sure.
So, any final thoughts here, Andy? I'm excited tomorrow.
I am excited as well. I think my only real final thought is get a good night's sleep and go there and have fun.
Yeah. All right. that's all the time we have today. I'll try to keep this 15 minutes, which I think we're gonna squeak in. So thanks for hanging out, everybody. We'll catch you next time.